Jacob Zuma will have to wait until Friday to find out if he will be arrested for contempt of court. Zuma had approached the Pietermaritzburg High Court today to hold a court order that sentences him to 15 months in prison. Lawyers for and against Zuma presented their arguments. Zuma's lawyers argued that he shouldn't be imprisoned until he had a chance to make his case for freedom before the Constitutional Court. In the meantime, the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, which took Zuma to court to begin with, has argued that Zuma is trying to abuse the legal process. Joining me now to unpack this is Lawson Naidu from the Council of the Advancement of the South African Constitution. Good to see you, Lawson. Now, quickly, the former, the issue of jurisdiction was a big part. The issue of the jurisdiction was a big part of today's case. Why was this so relevant?
Sorry. Good evening, and thank you very much. Well, as you will know, a week ago today, the Constitutional Court sentenced former President Zuma to 15 months in prison for contempt of court. He's launched two applications, one in the Constitutional Court, which will be heard next Monday, and the application that was heard today in the Pietermaritzburg High Court would sought a stay of the implementation of that court order sentencing him to a term of imprisonment. The key argument before the court today was whether the court, as a high court, had jurisdiction over a judgment that was handed down by the country's apex court, the Constitutional Court. And whilst there was a spirited argument by Advocate Dali Mpofu, who was representing Mr. Zuma, he seemed to be struggling to convince the judge, Judge Mguni, of the ability of the court to have the jurisdiction to hear this case. A very compelling argument counter to that was advanced by Advocate Tembeka Ngukatobi on behalf of the Commission of Inquiry, who said that it was untenable that a lower court could vary or suspend the order of a higher court. So that was a key part of the legal discussion in Pietermaritzburg today.
Well, anyway, Lawson, some strong words have been used, in this, pushing the arguments for this case. For instance, the Commission's lawyers also presented very strong arguments, calling Zuma a constitutional delinquent. Now, what message do you think this case will send out to others?
Well, I think, the important part of this whole series of cases is that it confirms that South Africa is a constitutional state, that the rule of law is taken seriously in South Africa, and that we have a strong and independent judiciary who will hear cases dispassionately and deliver judgments based on the law and the Constitution, which is precisely what the Constitutional Court did last week. And this is just a further attempt by Mr. Zuma, as we've seen over many, many years now, to abuse the processes of the judicial system, to avoid having to account for the very many mistakes that he made during his tenure as president, and his failure to account before the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture for that conduct while he was president.
Well, no doubt we've seen quite a very, a spirited move by supporters, especially those around his homestead, fighting, so hard to see that justice is evaded here. What can we expect going forward now that Africa and the world is looking to South Africa that has just set a very big, unprecedented judicial, judgment here?
I think we realized and recognize both domestically that this is a pivotal moment for South Africa and for the rule of law in South Africa. And we're also keenly aware that the rest of the world and the rest of the continent is watching to see how this plays out in South Africa, because, we stand proud by our constitutional democracy, the fact that the rule of law is paramount here. But if we allow Mr. Zuma to get away with this, it diminishes the strength of that rule of law. And, it's likely to lead to other people who are convicted of similar crimes to also seek to disobey the law or to not cooperate with legal processes and that way try to evade justice. So it is an important moment for South Africa to step up to this. The courts have already stepped up and, as I said, delivered very strong judgments. It's now incumbent upon the government, and in particular the police, to take action to ensure that Mr. Zuma is arrested and put behind bars. There's obviously a lot of confusion now because of this, these new cases that Mr. Zuma has launched. But in the view of myself, as well as many other legal commentators, the court processes currently underway do not in any way impact on the judgment unless and until that judgment is overturned, which is very hard to foresee at this point in time.